explain.
Going live. It is live. Okay, good. Now you can talk about the MOOC.
Sorry, yeah. So MOOC, is part 2 is continuing. It's in week 5. The JavaScript week has just been released. I've been reviewing materials for that. Go on, brain. What am I saying? Yeah, materials. Oh yes, and that open source. So we've had for the last 4 or 5 runs, we have had an optional open source assignment. In the part 2 in the JavaScript week, where we didn't have a JavaScript assignment. I mean, there's always been talk about making a JavaScript assignment. No one has yet done that. That would be a great thing to do. But so Armando said it would be all right to make the open source assignment required this time around, or at least just make it a normal assignment. So which I have done. I've also made it a bit friendlier in as much as I've removed the requirement to do pair programming from it. It was always an optional do a pair. It now says just do a pull request on an open source project. The only thing it does say is it says, get involved in a vote on the complexity of the story to do that kind of planning poker thing where you do like 1, 2, or 3 voting before you start work on the story. And feel free to jump into an Agile Venture Scrum, or actually even just come into our Slack instance. What we're doing recently is we're running these asynchronous votes. So we actually have, someone announces doing, we want to have the complexity on this ticket in the channel, and then whoever's announced the vote, people DM them their vote, and when the person who's running the vote gets the, sufficient number of votes, they, share the votes in the channel, and then people, if it's all in agreement, you just set the value and carry on. If there's a disagreement, then you can have a discussion, and we're kind of having fun with that as a way of voting on. There's always. Is
that a real time discussion or a text discussion?
That's all text. That's all text. So what I've actually got, the thing that I was just grabbing there was, we just did a scrum before this session, and we had one of the MOOC students join and take part in a live synchronous vote in the scrum. But I was also explaining in that session how we're also doing asynchronous votes using text chat. Which I think is, for some people, Hangouts are great. For other people, they prefer text chat. We're trying to make everything work for everybody. I'll probably still get in trouble for having required people to do something as complex as putting a pull request into an open source project. No, I'm so evil. Oh no.
How are you feeling about the requiring the pairing and all that?
Well, I think I'm feeling that's pretty much the I mean, we decided for the self-paced run of the MOOC next year that there will be no requirement for pairing for that. I think we are talking about a separate course specifically on pairing, where pairing would be required, possibly requiring it in the part 3 of the product course. I mean, I think the way I'm going is, I think it's kind of, everybody could gain huge amounts from pairing, but I think when you pressure people too strongly to do things a particular way, the benefit from that you get from some people who might have not tried it. I mean, it's offset by the anger from the people who really hate you for forcing them out of their comfort zone. So kind of, I'm receding, as it were, from the everybody must pair all the time kind of position.
Right. I mean, because it was your enthusiasm that pushed me like little by little over the years into doing that, and I am encouraging it in my in-person class. But I'm not. I'm like, just leaving it there. In other words, I'll go around, I'll nudge people. It's like, oh, there's someone else there you could be working with if you don't want to be working alone. But if someone gives me any resistance, it's not clear to me that it's worth the trouble. And unless I'm going to make it required and all that, and give a grade and all that, then I really just have to leave it as encouragement. But I'm not uncomfortable with the way that's leaving it. Is anyone that wants to try something new, is getting that opportunity, and most people are getting the opportunity, and I don't have to deal with the like you're saying, the negative pushback.
So I want to mention, I'm gonna have to duck out halfway through this call because I have an appointment at 11. But I did a computational thinking class last semester, and one thing that my colleague here has started doing in his classes that was very interesting was he had started doing assigned seating in the classes, because he noticed that the students weren't meeting each other.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to meet each other. So then what I had suggested we do is, here we do a lot of sort of daily homework assignments in the classes, because every day is supposed to be a week, so we can give them something and say it has to be done by tomorrow morning. So we did the assigned seating, and then we also did assigned pairing. So they had their assigned seats, and like, okay, and these are the people you're paired with, and then you're going to do your daily exercise with that person. And we had no pushback. The only one we did have two guys who were on the hockey team came and said, we're going to not be able to be around for the afternoon session. Could we just pair together? And we just basically said, we'll get back to you, and then never did. And we had no problems. I mean, we had one situation where somebody got sick, and, you know, we ended up dropping that daily assignment for that pair just because she got sick. She couldn't meet with her partner in the afternoon, you know, whatever. But because, of course, we're doing lots and lots of little assignments, you know, if they get paired with somebody who's, you know, not carrying their weight, it's just one assignment, you know, and then they'll have somebody different the next day. So, you know, I thought that was for an in-person class. That ended up actually working out really pretty nicely, and I will be doing that.
Right.
Janet, I did something that was a variation of that. I divided students into 7 groups of 8 and then said, you know, pair with any within your group for the first few assignments. And they all paired up fine within those groups. And then I told them they could pair with anybody after that, and they tended to stay in the groups anyway, since there were people they knew.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had sort of a random, you know, just a little script that would run and spit out the seating chart, so.
Yeah, and I've done sort of what you've said, Janet, for about the past 3 or 4 semesters. Every assignment, I've set up new pairings, which is, and the pairings and the seating, you know, assigned seating are the same thing. Where you sit, you just pair with the person next to you, and then dealing with people who don't show up or show up late, and we just, you know, move things around as necessary. And it's only sort of a little bit of laziness and the fact that I have a small, you know, sort of short classes this year that I haven't done it, but I still intend to do it. I think that's the nice way. And again, people, because the seats aren't numbered like in a theater, that's what we really need. But people have a hard time coming up with my numbering scheme, and it turns out like my image of what's left and right and back and front differs from other people. But other than getting that in, once we get it going, then people know, like, come right in, look at the seating chart posted, come right in, and they sit down and start working, and they're used to it.
Some of them will not. So I just want them to experiment.
So I wanted to comment on something before I leave that came up. Ruby vanish. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, go on. I can. I can.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, and Rose, I just muted Rose because she was on another. Can she unmute herself, or do I have to?
She should be able to. She should.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even realize I was unmuted. I'm sorry. I'll mute myself because I'm in the lab and there's conversation. And if I have to say something, I'll unmute myself. Okay? Sorry about that.
So I had a funny thing come up in a conversation with one of my former students last week. So we'd had the Spocks part 1 and part 2, and this time I'm going to do just merged into one. Apparently, the students thought each part 1 and part 2 was a different class at Berkeley. Because I've been getting lots and lots of pushback of this class is too much work, this class is too much work. I made it worth a class and a half. It was this class is too much work. So yeah, they viewed the part 1 and part 2 was I was taking 2 Berkeley classes and cramming them into one semester. And I had talked about what the part 1s and part 2s meant, but apparently that didn't.
And you're taking, I mean, the reality is weird. You're taking about a half a Berkeley class and cramming it.
Well, yeah,
right?
Now doing it in the block system starting Monday will be a completely different thing. But yeah, and I told him, I said, no, it was what they did in the Berkeley class, except that I dropped a whole bunch of the homework assignments. Yeah. So so I thought that was kind of I wanted to point that out as a side effect of the part 1s and part 2s to maybe watch for, because yeah, I mean, I was just kind of shocked at the end of last semester that even though I made it worth a class and a half, the students were still really up in arms about the amount of work that the class was, even though really it was less work than the students are doing in a semester at Berkeley.
Well, you know what this is going to be? I'm going to tie in my placebo effect commented earlier, because instead of now giving them part 1 and part 2, what you should do is combine both classes into one SPOC called part 1 of 2 and then say, you know what, we're not going to assign part 2. We're only going to give you half and see if the students are much happier with the same amount of work.
Yeah, that's pretty tempting. Yeah, so I've really, right now, I just posted my syllabus for starting Monday, and I still have so much of it listed as TBD, because it is really interesting when you really have to think about, I'm giving you some homework, but you know, we have another day the next day, so they really only have 4 or 5 hours, and I really have to think about, you know, like I couldn't give them all of the Code Academy tutorials because it was too many. You know, I had ran through them myself. Yeah. Okay, I can give them about 3 hours worth, and then that's all I can do. So
it really is like you're running a boot camp there. I mean, that's exactly the situation with the students in the boot camp. Is I mean, they're coming in every day and they're doing 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 even, or what have you. We would only give them assignments at the weekend. They would basically be, you know, they would have a project for the week. They would be working on that all day, every day. There might be new feature requests that they would get each day, and then they would have their take-home assignment at the weekend.
Yeah, so it'll be, I won't be, unfortunately, this will be my last call for a month because I'll be in the class teaching at this time. But I'll send out updates.
It's the best of luck with it. It sounds like a fascinating experiment.
Well, you could do what Rose does and have, you know, just sort of tie us in and we could be a part of it. Actually, I do make some teleconferences part of my course. I get in, I have some industry friends, and sort of I tie in and have them talk and do question and answers and stuff, so we could be part of that.
Yeah, great idea. My only problem now is it's Python, not software engineering.
We're good at that. We can fake it.
All right, so next Monday, I'll just Skype into this and say, hey, my whole class is here. Sure.
Well,
sounds great.
And Agile Ventures is always running. I mean, the other thing that you can do, like we've just set up for the MOOC, is saying that everybody, you know, like Agile Ventures is there for you to like get support and, you know, submit, you know, see open source projects in flow. If you're stuck for things for them to do, you know, we do have these scrums and hangouts running every day that everybody's welcome to join. And, you know, so.
You know, I'm actually thinking of, for the final project, which will have about 5 days to do, I'm going to just let them come up with something. So yeah, maybe I'll just throw that out as an option.
Sure.
Just say, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite know what I'm going to do for the first homework assignment for the weekend is going to be the Sinatra hang person. And then the second assignment, I'm going to do something with rotten potatoes. I may just pick a couple of the suggested projects from the book.
When are you doing that, Janet?
So that'll be in 2 weeks. So next weekend will be Sinatra hang person, and then the weekend after that will be some sort of rotten potatoes extension, and then the weekend after that they'll be working on their final project.
Okay, and if you don't mind, I would be interested, especially if you're not here, a report back of how things go with the Sinatra hang person, because I'm looking for like continuing input in various people's experience with that, because I still am. I was just talking about with my TAs about maybe putting it in as a final assignment of the semester if we have time, and I'm just looking for additional, like, you know, reporting of that. So let us know, or let me know.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do it before I cover Rails, so it'll be just like with the MOOC.
Yeah.
Janet, do you plan to have the students pairing during the next
yes.
1 week?
Oh, actually, no. For the Sinatra hang person, they will not be. So the way we do it is they'll have most of the MOOC assignments will be paired, but then they will have 2 weekend assignments that are these quote unquote honor assignments that are individual. So yeah, so the Sinatra hang person will not be.
Will you? Are you going to disallow pairing, asking them to work only on their own, or are you just going to not encourage or require it?
For that one, they will be forbidden.
Okay,
yeah,
and your rationale is?
The rationale is, you know, there are situations where you get a student who hasn't learned, you know, they have to have a couple of things they're doing in the class that are individual. And they'll only have 2 assignments, the whole course, that aren't going to be with a partner. So
Okay.
Yeah,
but
no,
they can use Google, right? They can ask questions, right?
Of me. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing because we did this in the computational thinking and we had, you know, folks from the quantitative analysis center who were doing help sessions on the weekend, you know, various things like that. But of course now, you know, there's nobody else who knows Ruby. So it's going to be just me. So normally they do these weekend assignments and they're due Monday morning. I'm going to have it due Tuesday morning because I know just how hellish my weekend is going to be if, you know, they're left with like nobody but me to help them. And, you know, so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing when you do a class and, you know, how do you do an individual assessment? And there's still a pretty strong belief that there should be at least some kinds of assignments where they're doing it on their own. So,
see, my concern about that is that with the people that get stuck are, you know, then start Googling, and if you Google, you know, answers to these particular these particular problems have come up because other people have done it.
Yeah, and we actually have in a pretty detailed description of the honor code that for the honor assignments, you know, it's yes, there are going to be solutions on GitHub. It is considered an honor code violation if you use them, and you know,
but it's more like, you know, how much of the stack. I mean, people will ask the questions. You know, sort of parts of the solutions or tricky things will get answered on Stack Exchange, and people will find them. And it's hard to know when people ask a reasonable question that you would encourage them to ask at Google. It's like, oh, that's actually not only the answer to my question, but exactly the same person who asked the question for the same assignment. And then, like, what does the student do at that point? Avert their eyes? And
yeah, and we actually do again. We say don't use Stack Overflow for honor assignments. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's what can you do, right?
But if you do a Google search, that's what comes up. So I mean, it's tough. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you just sort of have to, you know, what can you do, right? I mean, there's always this dilemma of how much effort do we, the instructors, should we be doing to prevent something that the students should just be, right? I mean, this is a school where we have to leave the room when we give them exams.
Right. You were saying,
right?
Yeah.
You know, so there is really a pretty strong, you know, this is
honor code. So I do it. There's a thing that people, ultimately, if students really want to cheat, they really will. If ethically that they don't have a problem with it, they will find a way around almost any of our attempts to prevent them from doing so.
And they can cheat if they're paired as well. So, you know, it's, gives them a little bit more of an incentive, but.
Right. My point in bringing this up now was not to get down that rabbit hole, but I have found it was based on you saying, okay, they have to work alone and they can pair. And in fact, my experience has been that when I sort of allow and encourage pairing, I sense, and I don't have statistics on this, but I sense the cheating goes down.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was just going to say the thing that we have at the boot camp would be pairing every day, but then the assignments they work on alone at the weekend. And I think, you know, that we started on earlier where I was saying, I think for MOOCs and I think standard bricks and mortar classes that are not necessarily as intense as yours, Janet, I think when the logistics make it difficult that people, you know, they're not likely to be around, that I think, you know, requiring pairing doesn't make sense. I think in a situation where you have an intense situation like a boot camp or a very intense class like you have there, at least during the like 9 to 5, it makes really strong sense to impose pairing there because it massively reduces the number of questions that you have to deal with as an instructor if the students are talking to each other. And if you've got it like everybody's going to be there each day, as we did in the boot camp, you can rotate the pairing. So basically everybody's pairing with a different person each day. They don't have this chance to become really irritated and angry at the same person over and over again. I think it works really well there. But yeah, to the extent that it becomes more distributed and diffuse, the argument for pairing becomes less and less strong.
You also start to run into issues for a weekend assignment of having pairing because then, you know, some students have different things going on the weekends and their schedules.
Right.
So, you know, and you get the student on the sports teams, you know, who are traveling on the weekend and, you know, you say, you have to figure out when you're going to do this assignment, but it would not be fair to pair them with somebody. So, yeah, no, I think, and really the Sinatra Hang person is the only one that's actually going to be a MOOC assignment that I'm doing on the weekend. The next one will be something, some sort of variant that will not be auto-graded, and that I'll be actually looking at their code. So, you know, if they cheat on one assignment, you know, again, there's only so much you can do to
absolutely
to prevent it.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is, a lot of the times what they find, it's not easy to get working what you find on the internet. So there's even a learning experience in looking for answers and figuring out which ones are good and evaluating them.
Absolutely.
The only thing that pisses me off is when people find stuff from the internet and then can't get it working and then ask us for help to get it working.
Well, I'm also thinking there was that discussion about some related questions on Sinatra Hang Person, right? To make sure they actually did it. And I may actually make that part of the honor homework of your grade will also include your score on some questions I give you as a quiz, right? So I haven't decided completely whether to do that. I haven't looked at the questions, but that's another way of doing it, is saying you're going to have this homework, and 70% of your grade will be the you know, what you get from the auto grading, but then there's going to be this additional component. You know.
Yeah, if I could interject something, in our program, virtually every course, the students must work alone to, you know, write their programs, etc. And in fact, my course is about the only one where they're supposed to work in teams, and the emphasis is on teams. So it's the emphasis is on teams and pairing, etc. And the point of it is for them to learn the Agile process. You know, not to work alone, which is what they've been doing all 4 years. So, I mean, I think as far as learning to do the Agile process model, it's critical and perhaps even central. But, you know, I'm just throwing that in.
Yeah, my class isn't being advertised as software engineering, so it's a little...
Yeah, totally different. Totally different. Yeah.
Although they're going to get Agile anyway, because, you know, they're just going...
One hopes so, yeah. I do have a question about, and I'm just going to leave it out there. I don't know if we have time to even look at it, but I had some questions when I looked at the tester for the hang person about how information was getting into the session. I mean, I know that the game is saved, you know, every pass through, so the session has access to the game. But I was curious about the syntax in some of the testing where it appeared to be getting at certain variable values, like immediately, rather than, you know, going through the game. So is the testing harness throwing those in the session itself at some point? Does anyone know?
Well, I think it's certainly possible that it does. I know that in some of our Agile Ventures projects, we do insert stuff into the session. I'm just
sure. I just can't see where it's happening.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what if am I going to find the? Yeah, okay. I'm just looking at the code. The Sinatra Hang Person, but is this specifically in the existing tests that are in there?
Yeah, the existing tests.
Not in the grader, not in the stuff that's used to CI it.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of curious about how the Cucumber and RSpec tests were written. I'm just seeing some stuff that doesn't seem familiar.
Sure.
And also, like at one point, it sets app to be app, and it's like, okay, is that some sort of globally available? You know, I don't know. Some of it just didn't seem. And again, it's Sinatra. It's not Rails, so.
Sure.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just pulling it up. For some reason, I think GitHub is experiencing. Heroku was having some outages earlier today. It looks like GitHub is having some problems right now. Is it
just us, or is everybody having outages lately? I mean, it just seems kind of crazy.
I think well, you know, basically everybody's using Amazon. So if Amazon's having a bad day, pretty much everybody else goes down as well.
Right.
I'm just pulling out here. I've got the spec now, and I'm screen sharing. Did you want to direct me to a part of the code, Rose? I mean, this is all.
Yeah, let me see.
This is app spec.
Redirects.
Like you can see here.
Oh, okay, okay. So I think, okay, here it is. All right,
so
which
the
one was I
session
looking
being,
at?
I mean, this is using like
Add
RSpec.
spec from public. That's funny. All right, yeah, because this would sort of.
the individual
I
game
must have
engine.
been. Yeah, I must have been looking at some other portion of this, where it was accessing these things, and it's like, where on earth is it coming from?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, like here, session word should equal. Well, I mean, in the program itself, it
Yeah.
never stuffs that in. It stuffs the game in. Session guesses should equals. I had a student come to me, and I have to look at his program a little more. He appears to be initializing everything correctly, but he doesn't pass that test.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out, where is it that it's getting the word and the guesses directly in the session?
Well, I think that the idea here is that, so like this test, it's saying it should initialize the session values.
Yeah,
So
right.
the app at the moment doesn't stick those things in the session, but that this will test after the, you know, after the post operation has taken place, has the session been set up correctly?
Yeah, but I mean, the session contains the game.
Well, the session doesn't contain anything. I mean, if we look at this here,
No. I'm saying the code, that you put in there takes the game and puts it in the session.
Right.
I'm not aware of any necessity to take individual
elements and put them in there.
Element and put it in there. I mean, I don't know. I certainly got it working fine without doing that. I just put the game in.
Yes, I mean, it may be that it's. I mean, what I will say is, I mean, I was just fielding a question on the Oracle of Bacon. Well, this might not immediately seem related, but bear with me. From a MOOC student about how in the Oracle of Bacon, the description of how you interact with it in the thing talks about getting back an error code, whereas the spec, I think, checks for an error being thrown. So I think there are, with these assignments, sometimes inconsistencies between what the specs are doing and what the description of the homework says that you should do, if you know what I mean. So I mean, but certainly for these specs to pass, it's clear that these things would have to be put in the session. Would they not?
Well, that's what it looks like, but
yeah, and
you know, I'm trying to figure out, how can it pass when that's not done, or has it changed somewhat?
It can't. It can't. I mean, I'm just trying to see if I have. Do we have the grader? It's annoying there if GitHub continues to be down, because I think I can't necessarily very easily access. I don't know that I have the Sinatra hang person stuff locally to look at that. I probably should have a solution to the assignment somewhere close by. Do I still have the RAG? Oh, I do have SaaSbook RAG there. But I don't know that will that contain. No, that's, I've got all this. That's the RAG. That's got the current solutions. What is it? The features, support. I don't know that necessarily includes. Yeah, because the Sinatra one wasn't. Yeah, they didn't do it for that one. I mean, I can look into that further, but clearly those specs as they stand. What I'm not sure offhand, without being able to get to GitHub and look at it, is what precisely the AutoGrader specs are doing for that. But,
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look into it more myself. I just started looking into it, so I just thought I'd throw the question out there.
Yep. I guess if the instructions about this, if we look at it mentioning the session in the instructions here, which I for some reason can't spell. Come on. There. The session.
Yeah.
Talk about putting the game option in there. I mean, presumably there are instructions in here somewhere that say what to do with the session. That seems to be the I mean, in the instructions here, they're not saying whether you should put the game in there or the other individual bits in there, and the session is not mentioned elsewhere in the README. Although I might have an old version of this actually, because I did update it and I may not have pulled down the newest version.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if what I'm looking at is my old version. So, I mean, that's something I still have to investigate.
Yeah, yeah. We are unfortunately hit by a relatively rare GitHub issue there. Yeah, even their status page is not coming up. I mean, I assume we're connected to the internet because I'm talking to you guys around the world.
That's hilarious. But, yeah, right.
Yeah, GitHub's really down today.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'll look more into it and I'll tell you what I find. Yeah. By the way, did you mention somewhere about more walkthroughs being put in for certain assignments? The instructor area.
Yeah, I haven't done any new ones this week, but partly because there wasn't assignments. I do need to actually do. I'm just looking. I don't think I've got the one that I want in there. I can't get to get on it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
They're all but I basically have it. It's almost complete. I just need to finish doing the video of the third part of the homework, the last bit of the legacy assignment, which is like merging the comments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I hope to do that next week. But
I'm disappointed because I was kind of hoping that maybe you would be available and I could, do a walkthrough with you. But
whatever. Sure. Well, I mean, I probably will do that next week, and I can try and let you know when it is.
Yeah, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. What am I looking for now? The other conceivable thing is, do I have? That's the rag.
This is like me and Blackboard all night. I mean, I was up till 3 trying to get some stuff done that should have taken me 1 or maybe 2 hours. It was ridiculous. I just kept on trying to get to it, and it was down. It was down. It was down. It was down.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And I have so many other things to do. It's just irritating. Oh, and and then periodically edX doing that sort of thing too, where it won't commit. It spins around and it doesn't. It says, "Oh, we have a problem," and then you have to, Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kudos to Google. I mean, I've been having trouble with Google Hangouts. Like last week, it was repeatedly saying it failed to go live when it was actually working. That problem has now gone away. We also had a problem earlier this week where the Hangouts, our plugin completely failed, and that took me a day to debug and fix. But it is now fixing, and the notifications are working again. And despite the rest of the internet being down, we are clearly actually having a Hangout and talking to each other very smoothly.
There's something going on because obviously the GitHub DNS, and I saw a search on there's a Twitter comment that says we are investigating DNS resolution issues for GitHub.com. That's a Twitter post, and when I try and go to the Twitter post, guess what? It says Twitter.com server DNS cannot be found.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Now I may be using Google's DNS server. I don't know if you guys all are.
Good question.
I'm wondering if that's a common thread. I need to check that. That's sort of interesting. But the the end of the world may be coming here.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, maybe Google's AI has reached sentience and it's decided to shut down everything that's not Google.
We shouldn't leave. This may be the last chat that we can.
This may be the last human communication that we've ever had. Yes.
Oh my God.
Now we're laughing.
How sad.
Slack seems to be working as well, though. That's so Slack and Google.
Yeah.
Any other things that anybody's stuck on, or any other issues at all?
Richard, were you still having trouble with the students submitting to the AutoGrader for homework 3?
No, I think we're good. What the trouble is that my students weren't doing it, as far as I could tell.
Right.
And what was happening is a few students were and not doing it correctly. But usually I'll get like 1 or 2 students with some non-zero points, and that will confirm that things are working. And the only non-zero points for too long were like me and my TAs, and that was just getting me worried. And so that's why I was just checking. But they started doing it, and I like. There's always issues. There's always submission issues for that homework. People don't have the IDs in the right place. All sorts of issues. So I just wanted to get them started. And my only news is I don't have we didn't get any repeat of any of the weird Cloud9 issues. And the only one that was really troubling to me is when someone was saying we're updating the code and it wasn't coming up. My guess, if it hadn't been people I trust, I would have just assumed they're just making a slight mistake, on something. And then so I'm about to close that out. I made a comment about that. And the only other issue was the chapter 4 walkthrough. This is old stuff for me, so it's only for posterity. Is that, Stacy, you mentioned that you needed to do like a little bit of a workaround from what was in the text. I saw that post in Canvas.
No, just because I had them using the user params tests to make sure the user input was valid.
So that was something unique to it, like a little bit of a change you made.
Well, I mean, they talk about it in the textbook.
Okay.
So I don't know if Armando was just implementing it without those checks.
Okay.
And that was what I was going to ask, is if they put those checks in, is it going to kick, is the AutoGrader not going to like it?
Well, the AutoGrader needs. Oh, okay, but my question was about the chapter 4 walkthrough, and you just mentioned the AutoGrader. So
well, they're extending that app, right, for the homework 3.
Except that what we recommend is they download the skeleton for doing the Rails intro assignment.
Okay, that's fine. Then.
Even though actually the way that assignment is written, Sam, is that we say, just create the route at the end of the chapter 4 walkthrough, then lead into this homework. But we pretty much, are all encouraging them, like, start with the skeleton, right? Because so it's all set up correctly for Heroku.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I guess I'm saying that if you read the actual way the assignment is written, we might want to. It's minor, but we might want to update that. The GitHub. I think it sort of says, just create the rotten potatoes and lead from there.
Sure.
And optionally go. Okay, no big deal. And then I have a few things in the chapter 4 walkthrough that my TAs have sort of said might be changes necessary from the chapter, but I'm not ready to raise them as an issue before I really double check them, because they said they only looked through it quickly, and we basically reviewed all the things from last year before the textbook was updated and took out most of the changes we made, but not all of them. But that was just a stretch for me to bring in some new agenda items for this week.
Well, that was my concern with the walkthrough. So the walkthrough talks about putting a private method in for user parameters to do input validation, right? And then it turns around in the last section and doesn't use them. So then the students get an error because it's trying to pull without doing that validation first. Right. So then it's confusing when the students are going through the textbook if they've implemented the private method for checking user parameters.
Okay, so if that is that what I put in that little item in our agenda? Is our agenda still accessible?
Well, that's the thing, is the agenda may not now be accessible.
Yeah. Hey, does anybody know what's going on with Google Hangouts? Beginning of the semester, they pushed everybody to YouTube Live, and now they're back to Google Hangouts?
I wasn't aware of them going back. I mean, I think that the YouTube Live thing was only ever really sort of a slight rebranding of the same system. So, is there new information saying they're going back from YouTube Live?
All I know is my students said that they tried to use YouTube Live, and the links were gone, and they were back to Google Hangouts. So so I'm just wondering if you guys heard anything, because I just don't know.
No. Well, I mean,
weird.
I mean, to be honest, I've always been able to start. Like, I mean, I can show you the GitHub has come back up, by the way, in the background here.
Yeah, and I'm reading. There's news reports about
people crying and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that basically, for me to create, like, if I recorded a sort of welcome message for a Kenyan boot camp today, and basically in YouTube, if you go to my live events, you can create new live events, and you can go live now, and that's been working.
Okay, so that's still there.
That's there for the last 2 years, and has been a consistent way of doing it. I mean, I'm not sure what if like YouTube Live. There's like this separate. I never go here, but this is, I guess, in principle, you can see everything that's live now. And I mean, I think the whole point was,
they sent me a message, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, but I suppose I can either that, or maybe there was some kind of intermittent, outage, and they leapt to a conclusion. I don't know, but I just wondered if you heard anything.
Not there's been over the last 3 months there's been weirdness in the Hangout thing. I was just look here. I mean, Google Hangouts now from here I think they've removed mention of Hangouts on air from this environment. So
that's quite interesting. Okay, it's not worth spending a lot of time on, but I was just curious if you had heard anything, because the reports I'm hearing are kind of strange.
Yeah, I was just gonna, like, since we've now got it back up, I was just gonna look in here and in fact here, I think I must be looking at. We've got the spec there, app spec from public. Yeah, I mean, we've got the same thing that this spec here,
right,
contains all of that stuff that we know and love, sort of. If we look at the assignment, which I haven't got locally, is so we've got connecting Hang Person game to Sinatra.
Right.
We have and that's the section in which we talk about the session.
Okay, wait. Up above. No. Okay, wait a minute.
What I'll say is that don't try and read this on my stuff.
Yeah. Sure.
Because there's a lag, and I scroll it. I guess what I was wanted to look at here was, is there something about? I think it's not explicit about the way that you should connect up with the session. However, as we were seeing in the app file, it's sort of set up to allow the game to be
stuffed in the session,
to be there. I was just going to look at the features as well, and we've got the features that's doing like a guess. I should guess R, and I mean, this is all going to be. This is not going to look at the session.
Pretty.
Yeah.
This is high level. That's high level.
Yeah. So
no, it's the R spec that
the question
had some interesting things.
Is if we look at the solution for the assignment, and we look at what does the app RB do there?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean,
so where's like an
one there? There does not seem to be any running of the. There's no adding items to the session.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And we might reasonably ask in here, how is the AutoGrader testing it? We've got the AutoGrader thing here, and this is the spec that it's running, and it's using Mechanize, and so it looks to me there. Yeah, that's not testing the session at all. So it looks to me there that we've identified an issue, that that those tests for supporting the session are kind of irrelevant. I think there must be
there's a whole bunch of them, and they're kind of weird.
And I wonder if that's been mentioned at all in here, and it doesn't look like they have. So I think we can create a new issue here, which is that R specs relating to session seem to be out of date. The check for individual words in the session in the RSpec seems to be unrelated to the grader tests, and because unnecessary, isn't it? Unnecessary for the way the app is described currently. So I think that's an out-of-dateness, and you can compliment your student on having helped us discover an important issue that will hopefully help us improve the thing going forward.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to go.
Sure.
So thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is the video walkthroughs. That's all of them so far. Yeah, there will be waiting on part 3.
Now
So
where is that?
I'll put the link in there.
Oh, okay. No, it's the same. Well, why? I don't know. I looked at that and that stuff wasn't there. Am I looking in the right place?
I'm not sure.
It's SASBOK instructor community.
It is private, so you're making sure that you're logged in with the right account.
Logged in.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. With the right account, that's the question, right?
Well,
because I'm not seeing it.
Well, no, but you're not seeing this repo, or you're not seeing that particular link to the video walkthrough?
I wasn't seeing that. While where does that link takes you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that link was just like a README. Oh, right. I see. No. Now I understand. Sorry.
A side issue on the access thing is that the way to get access to this repo, what I've been doing with my TAs, because they sort of come in and out, is I've been just having them use my account. I sort of have a shared account that I'm comfortable with, rather than like giving them all individual access, because it's like a request. Is that fair, Sam, as an approach? Sometimes when I have admin,
yeah.
I mean, I have admin access to things, but I try and minimize, like, please add these people. It's make work. Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to add people if to ask them to. You saying you're giving them your
I have
login ID on GitHub.
Right. That I have sort of set up for this class. So this way I just share that with my TAs, and it's a non-interesting.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm doing
that to save you some work, basically, and I'm just confirming that.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, I basically believe everything should be public. So, really, don't ask me about security. Yeah.
Is GitHub down again?
I mean, it's probably up, and it's briefly up again, going down. I'm
getting page not found.
Yeah, I'm going to go to.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I would leave GitHub for a while for them to lick their wounds and get back together. I was just looking for Stacey. I mean, you were talking about in the walkthrough of part 4. You were saying they get to a point later on where it doesn't use that private method?
Yes, in 4.8, the very last section, when they're implementing the final part of CRUD, the destroy and whatnot.
Okay, right. And so we're basically let's have a go on through there.
So you're talking about the homework 4 walkthrough.
Chapter 4 walkthrough.
The chapter. I'm sorry. I meant chapter 4. Chapter 4.
In this part here, Stacey?
Let me see.
You're not screen sharing.
But this is for when you're saying when they're doing the destroy.
Yes. So where am I? I'm just looking it up right now.
Sure.
So 4.8 would be the section.
Do you want to be sharing, Sam?
Oh, have I not been?
Right, that's what I was just. I was just saying that you're not screen sharing at the moment.
I mean, I think there was a whole thing. I was doing a whole look through of other stuff before, which maybe I should have been sharing. Sorry.
Well, you might have been it then, but just recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's in the.
Is it this one here?
Hold on, I gotta make my screen bigger.
Because I can see there's an offshoot. There's one here.
Yes, that's exactly it. So if they call params movie, then if they've implemented user params, it will give an error.
Yeah, this is wrong there. That's it's a mistake in it. That should be. I mean, I wonder if can I edit that? I can't edit that because that's Amanda's. But at least we were in GISTs. That's a huge step forward, rather than the paste bin. But yes, that needs to be like params_movie, and it needs to be the private method, and that's I think an omission.
And the private method we did implement.
Yes.
But the problem is when the students throw that in there, obviously it's going to give it an issue.
Well, and it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because is it a bug or a feature? You could say, "Aha, there you go. Were you paying attention? Do you expect all of the workthroughs to be?" I mean, we always had this so much in the boot camp. Is that we actually we prepended to every single walkthrough. These walkthroughs are not perfect. There are places where it's wrong. That's ironically it's just like the kind of problem you'll encounter all over the world
in real life. Yeah.
All of the documentation all over the world is slowly going out of date.
Yes.
And you can't rely on it. You have to, and so what you have to do is when you get stuck on something, you have to kind of reason around it. But it's even with an upfront thing for that, people, they sort of expect, if they're told to type something in, that it will work. And it's so hard to get them away from that idea that, I mean, for me, there is no surprise. I expect stuff not to work.
Yeah.
And I operate in a particular defensive manner precisely because that's the way. But it's difficult, isn't it?
I tell my students that when these things happen, it's a feature, because they're learning about real life.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
okay.
My students are just not particularly good at troubleshooting at this point yet.
No, sure.
Just because they're not comfortable enough with Ruby or Ruby on Rails.
Oh, sure, yes. And then there's a strong argument for saying that, when people are just feeling their way with things, you shouldn't be asking them to trouble. But I'm pleased to identify the location of where this is. And I just want to check the version.
We want to check 4.4 too, to make sure 4.4, 4.5, whenever we do the create, to make sure that one is correct as well. It seems to me that there might have been another place.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I need, I hear what you're saying there. What I critically want to do is just check which version of the book that I'm looking at here, and it is 1.2.1. As it is, yes. And so I think probably the sensible thing for me to do there to increase the chances. Now, where is this? Is see the danger with these things is that they get lost. Is to look at. So this is specifically in the Rails chapter.
Yes.
I wonder if we can just go and have a look in here. We've got our code. That says code for the.
That was in the controller.
Even the right thing. So we've got there.
It was the movies controller. It should.
So here, so we can actually see this is the precise point at which that code is wrong there on that.
Yes.
So we can open an issue here on this, and you guys should also have access on this. So there, which says code incorrect in section 4.8, not using strong params. And I wish we had it set up so that people could submit the errata all through this, and what that should be.
On that note, I need to head off to another meeting, but if you have any more questions about that, Sam, just shoot me an email and I'll clarify.
Absolutely, yes. And well, we will hopefully for the next one have done another complete check and upgrade of the textbook. Yeah.
And there's an item that I open that's sort of a good place, like chapter 4 walkthrough kind of issues that I put in a few things that we can either dispense with or add to.
Did you put that into?
Well, I don't know. I copied. That's how all this started. Is I copied Stacy's note that I had seen her give her class. I copied that and created that note and added a few of mine. And
I appreciate that, Richard, because I was flying from one thing to the other, and I just posted it real quick on my phone to my class and went, oh, I should have probably done something for the SAS group. But okay, well, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay, very good.
Bye.
Right. Thank you, Stacey. Yes, and I think have I found the place here?
Yeah. And I was just doing this quickly before the meeting, and my issues, they're ones that I feel like we need to double check. But if anyone is ever looking at them, those are after my TAs did check the walkthrough. They may have addressed. I'm not following this as closely, but it's possible they may have addressed similar issues in a different way. So it's just at least a repository for anyone looking at this.
Yes. What I'm trying to do here is connect all these things together. This looks. I mean, I'm kind of surprised here. I'm looking at all of these. I mean, that was one of the key updates that we were doing for this section of the book was for the strong params. And as Stacey had mentioned before, I know she's gone off now. We had, adjusted it so that it's. We had adjusted it. Let's see if actually you can find it. The strong params is created earlier on in the thing. I mean, I went through. This is now coming up for a year and a half ago, and got it all working perfectly, and made all of the elements for Armando. It was then Armando pulling those in, and this is what I dislike about. I mean, the issues were made on a different repo. Like, he discouraged me from doing changes. He wanted just the issues, but I think this is the thing about pull requests, is that you can find the issue and say precisely this is the correction that you need. They're much less likely that you lose the specific change that you.
And you can you can track what's happened with it.
Yeah. So I'm just anyway. I mean, I'm sort of frustrated that this has failed to come through into the. So I'm kind of going to keep on going through. Is there anything else that we need to?
No, it's not horrible, as you said. Like, the students sort of get through it, and even if everything you were done it's easy for things to get sort of messed up after a while, but we want to try and get it as good as we can for that reason. Look, what I did is, rather than copying those issues, I had the current state of that Google Doc that I share with the class, that I made totally visible, and I just put a link to it. So if if you're ever looking at it, open that up and see the current state and see if any of that is relevant.
So we've got here, for the create operation, it specifically has the movies params permit thing. But then it goes on, and so it seems like, so here for the update, that was the one that we were looking at. That's specifically the problem, wasn't it? There, I'll go to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Armando has all this clever stuff, so that when he publishes the book, it automatically updates the GISTs and so on.
Okay.
But the code, and it should be
right. It looks like similar-ish. I'm just scanning through this Google Doc. It looks like similar places and similar issues that might have, but I'm not sure that they've all been resolved the same way.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know if Rose is probably gone as well. I mean, I guess what I hope next year, as part of taking the course into self-paced, is I will start back at the beginning again of the course and work through all of these things and try and generate having done all the videos this year, is next year generate all of the walkthroughs, including the chapter 4 thing, so that we can kind of have a version. And I think Armando has basically agreed that he's happy for us to have kind of a separate thing, in Markdown, in Git, or what have you, that will, can kind of move towards being the canonical. This is how you build rotten potatoes.
Good. Right. Until something changes.
Well, indeed. I mean, what I would love to, I mean, this was, Armando kind of shot down my suggestion about, the Jasmine documentation. It seems to me that, what we want is, in order to avoid the ongoing battle of continually needing to fix little bits and pieces and students getting stuck on these things, what you want is, like, chapter 4 goes from a Rails app from 0 to something, right? You could run tests on the thing that has been created.
That's interesting.
Through that step-by-step thing. Check that it worked, right? So you could have effectively a Cucumber document that went through and described the series of things that you needed to do, right? And that would be living documentation. I mean, this is taking the main message of the course, which says, have living documentation that actually tests the thing, instead of this dead Kindle thing that's connected to GISTs, right?
Okay,
why not actually have a Cucumber?
I have to think about that, because what you're talking about is testing the process or procedure, and usually, our tests the end result. And I'm just wondering.
But Cucumber things test the process as well. There's no reason why we couldn't have, a Cucumber feature here, which would be like feature, build Rails app from scratch. I think you can see my screen. And scenario, and so this could be, part one. Given that I have run, Rails new my rotten.
So you actually actually put those exact commands.
Yeah, and so if we look, let me get back to the beginning of the chapter, and we step through the chapter here. So so we're doing these things. I mean, they've got various things. It's like -t, for the.
Okay, yeah, that's what so you're right. I was conceptualizing it a little bit different. You're creating the walkthrough and in the context of sort of in Cucumber, as opposed to using Cucumber to check what people have done. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
That's why I was getting my head around what we were. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you could. I mean, yes. I mean, you can use Cucumber tests to check the operational functionality of the thing that's at the end, and so that's you would want to have.
Right.
I mean,
that's another. Then the other neat thing would be to have this working in an environment that, like sort of an auto test environment, and as the person was doing the walkthrough,
sure.
Like sort of every time they did something, this thing in the background was monitoring that they weren't going too far astray. And if like 10 or 15 minutes passed and they didn't fix the problem, it would alert them and be able to like sort of wind things back. I mean, that's like sort of a blue sky kind of, like someone behind you.
Like a cognitive tutor of some
exactly.
Of some kind.
Yeah.
So I mean, I mean, I'm sort of imagining something like this,
right,
which would then be all the appropriate features work. I'm thinking of something like this, which you can almost imagine it. I mean, I don't know. I necessarily like it as a style for writing the walkthrough. Like I'm just looking here, like what would if we get to a bit where there's a code snippet. So what's this? This would be like, I mean, that's adding the root. Forget about that. I kind of try to remember from this. So it talks about databases. Then it's creating a migration for the movies, isn't it? We open that, do we get these? So at least they're gists, thank goodness. So you could be having things like this. Created a migration with the contents. And you'd have something like this. Oh, it won't let me tab in this environment, will it? No, it's annoying. Just take this and put it in. So, I mean, I think what would be. They have to do
wow. Okay. Yeah.
And you could sort of see how you would have a description, based upon the individual code snippets and so on, and that you could then run that, against, you could do Rails 5, right?
Well, even better would be to link
Start
those
it with Rails 5,
to link those snippets to the source, rather than copying, doing the dry thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the interesting question there is the extent to which, yes, what's the thing that the student works from, and I'm imagining that the thing that the student works from looks more like, if we go to here, we've got, I think we have an example of what I started there, like chapter 4, like this. So for example, like it's. I mean, this is the key thing that I'm sort of surprised that I'm not. That is mentioned in the. So we create the movies, and it does then. Attribute. We no longer need that because that was I think we no longer need the attribute accessible anymore. We took that out. That's right. Yeah. Okay. But so is there? Because it looks to me that I'm not seeing like the common thing of like it being movie_params and that defining the private method. I'm not immediately seeing. And what's frustrating about this is, like, the Kindle is just so inconvenient. If I had the whole walkthrough in a thing like this, I could just do this and do movie_params and find this. And that's, I don't know, see, they've got this. But if then it's got to build a search index.
Right, it's interesting.
Movie params, no matches found. I'm see, like this version that I have of it from here, these are all updated. I don't know what's going on there.
And that's your.
I mean, this was something that I copied and pasted
now,
out
what
of
about
a previous version of the Kindle. It
I'm wondering if
feels to me like.
Go on. I was just the PDF version. Like, I was going to check the PDF version that you created. That is also going to be more easy to search.
Yeah, sure. Yes, yeah. It's kind of disturbing to me that this seems to have diverged so far from what I was.
Right. So maybe
the way I had been.
Yeah.
I mean, this is saying, like, I mean, it may be not finding these movie params because it can't search within the context of the text.
Right. That's why I was that's why I thought the Adobe thing, the Acrobat thing might be better. Let me see. I'm opening it up now.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming back to this, yeah, I mean, what I would really like is for the formatting of it to be like this, so the student can see this, they can type this out. But so, yeah, it would be nice if these underlying code snippets, yeah, if they were pointing, I guess the simpler thing would have these to be pointing at bits of code of the completed app. Do you know what I mean? So, like, for example, if we had Rotten Potatoes and it has app and there's a controller and there's a movies controller, and so we would somehow be able to kind of we'd like to be able to say, can I somehow do, yeah, I can, like this. I would like to be able to say, insert this code segment into this document.
Oh, that URL has those actual lines identified? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Lines 11 through 19. I see that.
Yeah, and it highlights them.
The URL.
I mean,
okay.
I don't know.
That's cool. I don't know.
I mean, well, I guess what one could have is a kind of pre-processor that you would take, a version of this, and you could. That was, which one was that? That was create there. So you could effectively say something like, you could have a version of the code which would do something like this, and you'd have some syntax where you would say, oh, I don't know, link like this, right? And what it would do is it would pass through the code, and every place that it had a link, it would take the code from this instance of whatever it was and replace it with this, which you can imagine is not necessarily particularly complex to do. And then what it would mean is that you would have an app, and the app itself could just have a set of tests that you would run, and you would basically have the documentation generated from the app code, if you know what I mean.
It's interesting. Yeah, I wonder how something like that, even as a student project, in a sense, like a guided student project, as opposed to like an application that people are developing, might be sort of an interesting thing, because they would come up, figure out like what are the needs and the tools and pieces. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, it always is the kind of thing that GitHub Oh, here we go. Somebody's talking about a macro that can extract segments of code from source file and insert into the document. And they're talking about this. This is from 2013. It's still open. Any progress? I mean, I think I'm going to ask. I'm going to send a something to GitHub. Do I have GitHub support and ask them about this? Oh, hi. Ciao, Grio. Okay, my supper is ready. Here we go. GitHub support. Feature request. Hi. GitHub. Love that we can point to segments of code with a URL like. I wondered, is there any way in GitHub down to pull a chunk of code specified by such a URL into into documentation? Would be super useful for making sure that code walkthroughs kept correct code. Supposed to refer to and allow the walk through code to be executed to for correctness. I mean, they're probably not doing anything about it, but I think it's worth asking.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I should finish up. Good to see you. No, thanks for running.
Very good. Yeah, I was multitasking a little bit. I agreed. I shouldn't be doing this, but someone asked, "Oh, can you play some tennis now?" And I'm like, "What the heck?" So I'm gonna rush out and do that and play hooky for a little bit. But it was good talking, and next week, if not sooner.
Okay. Oh, I'm putting my thumb up, but you can't see because I'm there.
Yeah. Okay, I can see my thumb. Bye.
Bye. Bye.